think I should. Got to get up again?
No, I think we already pledged.
All right.
We pledged twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once is good.
Good evening. We will now open the regular city council meeting for the city of Cross Lake, Monday, November 14th, 2016 at 7:04 p.m. We have already called a part of this meeting to order, so we've already had the Pledge of Allegiance. We now need to approve the additions to the agenda. Do we need a motion, somebody up for
I'll make that motion to approve the additions to the agenda.
Motion Schrupp,
I'll second it.
second Hecox. All in favor?
Aye.
Next on our agenda is the consent calendar. All items listed here are considered to be routine and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of any of these items unless one of the city council members or the attendees would like us to pull it out and ask for further discussion. Looks pretty routine to me. We need a motion.
So moved.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Motion Wessels,
Second.
second Nelson. All in favor of approving the consent calendar? Aye.
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 Critical issues. There's a memo included in your packet that is a canvass of election results from Shar. Do we need to approve that? Shar, is it okay?
I'll move to approve the election results.
Motion Wessels,
I'll second it.
second Hecox. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, I have a sheet that's coming around that each member of the council needs to sign. It is a just certification of the canvassing. So I want to do that now, as long as you're all here, if you don't mind. So I appreciate that.
We can keep going while we're doing that.
Okay. We have a letter in here from Mr. Jim Lowell of 36572 Pine Bay Drive relative to lake access. I read through his request. I'm not sure I understand it.
I could maybe try to summarize. He just spoke to me before he asked. I suggested he just asked to be on the agenda and see what the full council thinks.
Okay?
But the issue, as I understand it, is he lives nearby a person that is potentially going to sell an easement for someone that's not on the lake to have a dock on the lake. As you probably know, we restrict that or regulate that when it comes to deeds. And the county recorder's office helps us regulate or enforce that, because if you want to create a new lot split to create like a 10-foot lot or something like that, they won't record it. They make you come through the city of Cross Lake and get approval, and that's where we have a chance to say, no, that's not what we allow. When it comes to easements, we could choose to change the ordinances to regulate it, but my understanding is right now we do not. So that's the question. It would be harder to enforce because the county would not be able to red flag or prohibit people recording things. And I'm on notice, I'm sure you all are too, there are many easements around the area that some have recorded, some are not, but people that grant permission to let people dock there. So it would be much harder to enforce. But that's a policy decision, whether you want to try to find a way to regulate that or just keep it the way it is now.
We, at one point, passed a ordinance or something to that effect. I know we set a precedence that if you live off lake, how do we do that?
We don't
Oh,
allow
if you
controlled
look-
access lots, we don't allow those.
Well, it would be the same thing as buying a lot in a subdivision in Minneapolis and having access to a lot for access to the Whitefish chain. You can't limit it. Once you put it in place, it's really difficult to distinguish between a subdivision in Cross Lake and one someplace else. And that's what I think the question is here, and we acted upon this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And the gentleman is still very upset about it, but it was a subdivision, off-lake subdivision that was going to have deeded access to the lake.
That was very near here, too.
Yes, it was.
In fact,
No.
I thought it included some of these lots.
Yeah, so we don't allow controlled access lots, which my understanding of how those work would be if you do a plat and like create an outlot A along the lake, that's one lot, and then you have a bunch of back lots that all have equal ownership on outlot A or deeded access to use it for dock, we prohibit that.
Okay, how is this any different?
Well, this is just one person's lot, like there's thousands of them in Cross Lake.
How many acres is it?
It's one lot, he's not asking to subdivide it or split
many
it, I
acres
don't
is
know.
it?
But it would apply to any lot in the city of Cross Lake.
Well, according to the drawing that I see, it looks like it's 10, 11 acres.
No,
Well-
no, that's a half-acre lot.
It's not that big, but the logic would be for any lot, any riparian lot in Cross Lake. Right now, if people permit a friend to have a dock there, so there'd be a second dock, we as staff don't know if that's the owner's second dock, or it's a buddy's, or we just don't regulate. So this is not creating a deeded access lot or selling a lot off, it's just an easement. That's the distinction. I agree with you, it's the same end result of someone that doesn't own a lake lot has a dock on the lake, on the chain. So that's why this person is complaining.
State laws prohibited controlled access lots way back in around 96, 7, 8, somewhere back in there. And that's when Cross Lake put the prohibition against controlled access lots. That Timber Lane thing that was going on forever and ever and ever here, they actually had theirs approved at the same meeting as we disallowed future ones. And that was because their application was in place, so you couldn't disallow it before acting on their application for the controlled access lot. And then from that point forward, and I believe that was in 97 or 8, Cross Lake hasn't allowed controlled access lots. To me, by giving easements instead of part ownership in a lot, this particular guy has just found a way to circumvent our rule. And it's, as far as I know, it's not allowed in the state, it's not allowed here, except it's never specifically called out an easement. Because, as Mr. Pence has told me before, it's very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to enforce that. You would have to have the county's help in flagging these, an easement across something, and they won't know what the easement's for. Because it could be a driveway easement, could be whatever. I mean, so that's the difficulty in doing it.
Well, and many easements are not recorded, so we wouldn't even see those. So that, it's just again, it's the same end result, I think. I don't disagree with that. It's just, it's a different animal and harder to regulate.
So then the question is, should we?
Yes, that's the question to you.
So we did, and we have, and just, here's a provision somebody found, here's how I can get around that. You know, kind of like the radar detector on your dash. Here's a way to get around that. So, it's not allowed, as far as I know, in state law. It's just that this is something I don't know that they planned for either. Somebody else in the state might have a way to police this. I don't know if there's any other communities that have run into this. But it hasn't been allowed here for 20 years. There was threats of lawsuits. I don't know if there ever was a lawsuit on that Timber Lane, or that actually included some of this land, I believe. And that was their backdrop, is they had just, Timber Lane was the last one that approved it with a controlled access lot.
So the concept is the same as a control access lot, we're just missing some wording.
They're, instead of giving a deed to it, they're giving an easement to it.
But
And that's harder to catch because it's harder to know what that easement is.
But if it were,
Or a lease. I think this is maybe even, that's another way of doing it, is a lease,
Right.
which again could be a 1-year verbal, it could be a 99-year lease. I think this one is, again, there's lots of ways to do this. That's the issue. How do we regulate that? If you want to confirm that in my mind, the only way to regulate it is to go to, which would be a big change in policy, you can only have one dock per lot or something, or how can you tell, how do you regulate this? That's why staff has not been doing so. I mean, how can I tell if that's my buddy's dock or my dock? It could be a verbal 1-year lease, it could be an easement, it could be 10 other things people dream up. It's harder.
How many of these easements per lot?
Well, I don't know, we don't have a policy on it right now. I don't know the answer to that because we don't regulate them now. I mean, we don't talk about leases or easements
We
of,
used to.
well, I don't
No,
know
that
where we
was-
do now.
No, it wasn't, it was always, people were giving a deeded access. The thing is if I give you a deeded access to come across my property, hang on here, just hear me out, and you can put a dock on my property, when you go to sell your house, you have that in your deed. That has value to you. Because you can sell that along with your house to somebody else. An unrecorded easement or a handshake agreement, go ahead, Brad, go ahead and do it. It's not recorded. Brad can't sell that. It has no value. Because the next guy comes along and I might not like him as well as Brad, and I won't let him do it. So that's the difference here is that, and I don't know if they're recording these easements or not. If they are, there should be a way we can catch that. If they're not, good luck trying to catch that.
Well, and leases are another concept, which is
Yep,
similar,
Yep.
you know? So staff has thought about this, and if you think we need to find a way, we will try. But the best way to do so would be to potentially limit, who's to say some guy might want to have 4 docks because he's got a lot of boats? And how do you prove they're his? It goes down a road that I don't think
That's the problem.
it's hard. It's not as easy as it sounds.
I understand that.
Unless
The
it's,
DNR even, had that big run at the whole dock situation a few years ago, and even for the DNR, totally failed. There's no way they could,
couldn't keep up with them.
they could keep up with it and tell people how many docks they could have or how many lifts they could have, and so, I mean, you're chasing that dock thing is,
well, here's you got to understand, the concept here, I applaud the guy, he's trying to create additional value through these deeded access lots. And we all know, if you have an access with a dock and I can have a boat slip out there, it used to be worth 50 grand on the Whitefish chain, just looking at lots around. If I have a dock slip on the chain and I can put a boat there, that's worth 50 grand to me, to have that. And so the concept is that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to increase value of other land by doing that. And so if he's recording the easement, we can regulate that. If he's giving handshake agreements, it doesn't have that same value. If he's a lease agreement is another deal. I'm not exactly sure how you do that and how that, if that even gets recorded, I don't know.
They can be, they don't have to be.
Yep, so that's a challenge with that. But if we've been telling everybody for 20 years you can't do it, and now somebody found a way to do it and circumvent our intention. I wasn't on the council 20 years ago, but I was around for those meetings, and well, of course, state law doesn't want it either. And so state law doesn't like controlled access lots. And so if maybe the state has a way to help us with this, and I don't know if Dan or Brad could do some research on that, but I understand that we haven't allowed this forever, and now somebody's found a way to get around it. So what do we want to do? I can understand the neighbors or whoever else that might not like that next door to them, because they're going to have a marina next to them. And supposedly it's not allowed. Okay? And so I can also understand the guy that's doing this. He said, well, you never said that. That's what I'm doing. You never said easements or leases. That's what I'm doing. And so I can understand he's creative in trying to circumvent a rule that's been there for quite a long time. And so do we want to go after it and make sure that it does? Well, because if he gets away with it, boy, there's going to be a lot of them. So yeah, the controlled access lots are going to be everywhere again if we don't do something with this. So it's just what you guys want to do with it.
I don't know that this is any different than the other requests that we've had. I'm having trouble with the last paragraph in Mr. Lowe's note. It says, with at least 9 vacant lots in this development currently without lake access, please tell me that there are or will be ordinance preventing Mr. Buckington or myself from parceling and auctioning off additional easements creating a marina in the south bay of Daggett Lake.
No, obviously, this person is advocating for you to change your policy or strengthen your policy to make clear, I don't care what you label it, docks on your lake lot should be personal to you, I think is what his goal would be. And I think that's probably, it feels like that's maybe a consensus here. It's just, I'm warning you that it's, I'm not saying don't try to do it, I'm just saying it's harder to enforce than it sounds on the face of it.
So does Mr. Buckentine own more lots that he could potentially sell? Or he's not just the
I don't know that.
14596 Pine Bay, but he has more lots, so I mean, he...
It sounds like, at least according to this letter, I did not try to
Is this a
confirm that.
one-time deal? He sold the house he had and is using obviously the new piece of property that he bought, right, from Ms. LaFavor.
Well, I would
So, I mean,
advocate,
is this a one-shot deal? He sold a place and bought a place and used that to enhance, or does he actually own more lots?
well, I
I
think.
mean,
from
I'm just saying, is this kind of a one-shot deal? He enhanced the value of his existing house when he bought the place that had lake access, or does he truly own multiple other lots down there?
My answer to that would be that looking at one particular development would set bad policy anyway. I think it's, as a council, you need to look at the whole city. There are all kinds of lake lots in the city of Cross Lake. So we can't sit and understand every plat and development, and looking at one in particular isn't going to help anyway. I think it's more of a global policy. There are lots of lake lots. Do we want to try to, as staff, there's, I would guess, thousands of them, I don't, for sure hundreds. Are we going to try to find a way to police each one of these? Or just kind of hold up our hands and say, we don't know how to do it? It's not as easy as the deeds, as we don't know how to do it easily. I don't know the answer to that. But there's, anybody that has a lake lot could give a lease to a guy that owns a place in the city, as they don't need a lot across the road. And this logic applies
To anybody,
to
yeah.
anybody in the world.
Controlled access lot is the key. It's the lake lot, not this. I'm pretty sure this particular gentleman doesn't own all these. I know he doesn't own all, he might own one or two, but I know he doesn't own all these.
Well, and this is not the only complaint I've had recently that staff has kind of seen.
Mm-hmm.
So the question to you is, I mean, don't think about this one in particular so much. This is just an example of how there's a loophole.
Yes.
But there's others, and the question is, any lake lot in the city of Cross Lake, can I, right now, according to our ordinances, I can sell a lease to anybody that knocks on my door, and our ordinances do not regulate that.
So what you're really saying is if this group of people that own all these other off-lake lots formed an organization, and then they could write a lease to the organization, and all 25 of them have access.
Potentially, but it's not this plat again, it's the concept. There's lake lots all over the place.
I'm enhancing the concept. I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying to you, how many docks, and then you get into how many boats can you have on a dock, and you go through all this whole rigmarole. And we basically said that if you, basically you have to own property on the lake to have a dock. And that's where we've been, unless you
Well, controlled
rent a
access,
place from a commercial operation.
state ordinances, they don't want controlled access. Cross Lake adopted that ordinance sometime in 97 or 98
Is
to
that still
comply
on-
with
Isn't it
state.
still on the books?
Yeah, controlled access, but I'm not sure how controlled access is defined. I'm not sure if our ordinance would give us any help there. If we specifically say controlled access, it doesn't say it has to be deeded or an easement or anything else. It can just say controlled access isn't allowed. The problem is, how do you find them? That's enforcing, it's the difficulty here. I don't know that we allow it right now, no matter how you do this. Easement or lease, I don't think it makes any difference. I don't think we allow it.
Well, what's a logical step, Bradley, to, to research this further? I mean, what would you be looking for? What is staff looking for?
If it's the consensus that, we don't want to, however you label it, we don't want non-lake lot owners having docks. Again, staff, not just myself, but other staff are trying to caution you that this is a huge enforcement issue. Doesn't make it a bad policy to try to do. I'm not suggesting that, but there's just so much. We have the good fortune of lots of shoreline in this city. So if that's your direction, I will have to work with staff to work on a proposed policy to come back to you with, and maybe a proposed budget, because this is not going to be cheap.
I don't know about enforcement at this point. Usually, the neighbors let you know.
Well-
We've done that a long time.
Maybe the direction from you would be simply to not inquire unless there's a complaint, or I don't know the question to that, but right now, unless there's a new deed created, it's real easy. Staff doesn't have to do a thing. It'll get rejected from the county recorder if there's any attempt to do a controlled access lot or a new lot split where somebody tries to sell a lake lot. Here, we don't have a way to see when leases get done, or, so I don't know how other than by complaint, which would catch some.
So did somebody just get clever here and kind of slip one through a loophole, or is this actually a problem? I mean,
This will be a
it's
problem.
good that we've got if it's,
I know of other ones. How big a problem it is, I have not tried to go survey the whole lake and find out. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Speaking from an industry that is always looking for ways to maximize profits for our homeowners, if this gets, we don't care. I guarantee you there'll be a lot of people doing it in the next couple of years. So if we don't
but the
take
guy that lives off the lake has got to find somebody to make a deal with the guy on the lake.
Somebody, a willing.
Willing partner, whereas this is kind of unique because it looks to me like he went over and bought the lake home property and then used his new purchase to enhance the value of his off-lake property.
Yes.
That's a very unusual situation. How often do you see that?
Well, that'd be the thing, is if that's all it is that one-time deal, I think most people would kind of shrug and go, well, that's not the end of the world.
It's like so many other things we've talked about. I mean, there's lots of good intention, but if enforcement is extremely difficult, extremely expensive, or maybe even, as you put it, darn near impossible, then,
Well, it wouldn't be impossible from the standpoint of, once you,
I'm just asking. I'm just
the
wondering what
neighbors all
P&Z
see
thought,
there's
and I'm just,
6, 7 docks sitting out there, we're going to hear from them.
right. Yep,
You
no,
know,
I
we're gonna
realize
see what's
that.
going on
People
next
we
to me.
turned down, too, before. All of a sudden, they'll come back. We're seeing some of that in land use right now,
Say
where we
again? What-
before prohibited something, and now it's gotten approved, and there's multiple projects going.
A lot of times you wouldn't have any ordinances if you always looked at enforcement. They already have told me that they can't go out and patrol for like people that build stuff without permits. It's usually neighbors that call or somebody that calls, and then they go put it on their list and they go check. So I would say enforcement's like step 2. You need to have some tools in your bag in the event you need to do something.
Sure.
And so the question at this point is, if controlled access lots are illegal, I know right now that's defining deeded access. You know, I'm giving you a deeded access, or I'm getting you a written easement. That's the first thing, is find, if we already don't allow it, how they're getting around it is another issue.
Well, I'm trying to, so our ordinances, in my opinion, do not prohibit all, like I said, the way you said it is stronger than our ordinances say, right? I think you said it that, basically lake owners can't have docks in the lake. Or that might be what you think it says, or what your intent is. That's what I'm trying to ask you, but the ordinances don't say
That
that
was the
now.
intention.
I know, but I don't think they're that strong, is what I'm trying to say.
I can understand that.
So that's, if
I
you
think-
want us to come back with, if that's the direction, maybe come back with some ideas or proposals, look into it further. I'm looking for more direction.
I guess I will say, one, I can see isn't necessarily a problem, but you can take and expand this into some pretty ugly results. And, if I were a land developer, it'd be very easy to go buy a lake lot and grant everybody access to the off. And that got to be the issue.
Yeah, that one we regulate. That's a controlled access.
I'll grant them all an easement.
Well, if it's a lease, there's a distinction here it's still the lot is intended to benefit non-lake owners. I guess this is, to Mr. Nelson's point here, so I own my own lake lot. Most lake owners probably wouldn't want somebody going through their yard, so I think that'll prevent most of this.
Unless, of course, it's vacant and I bought it for that
But
purpose.
a controlled access lot is not one where I own my own house in the lake and I have my own dock there. I'm giving a buddy or whoever wants to pay me top dollar,
Or a kid,
whatever it is.
yeah,
But there's a lot of that, I can tell you that.
sure there is.
And we don't regulate that. So, because that's my lake lot and
We
I,
don't enforce it.
well, the ordinances don't contemplate it, how might I put it that
That
way.
may be true.
Well, it's not that we don't enforce it, we don't have the tools to enforce it.
Well,
The,
okay.
and I don't mean that as far as actually, okay, you're the one doing it. I mean, the ordinance is for deeded recordable documents. We don't have, leases don't always get recorded. Probably seldom get recorded.
What does P and Z think?
That's
Shouldn't
the
P and Z be noodling this over and coming to us with?
You could defer,
they-
that clearly one action plan could be delegated to them and see what they come back with, yes.
Has this been run past P and Z,
I don't know,
Seeing Chris shake his head, no.
the commission?
no is the answer then.
Because I think this is,
I mean, that's always a proper place for some of these conversations to start, so there's a little bit maybe of recommendation coming up here.
But, and you guys got to think one other side of this. We're thinking about the guy who's doing it and providing access to off-lake people. Think about if it's the lot next to your house, and all of a sudden you got a marina next to you. And if you have a vacant lot on both sides, you just bought in a new development, put up a beautiful home, and all of a sudden somebody buys the lot on either side of you and provides access to everybody in the world. Whether they own land across the road or not, they're providing access to all sorts of people on the water. And so now you built a beautiful home and you're between two marinas. And that's that's a big part of it too.
The big part is that if you allow it, everybody's going to want to do it.
Yep. And there was
That's the
one,
big part.
2 lots down from you at one time. That was
Right.
almost a lawsuit. In fact, there might have been a lawsuit here on that one.
well, I think we should have
Well, why don't I ask,
our city attorney look into it.
I'll
make
have
some
planning staff
suggestions.
get that on the agenda for the next planning commission meeting, is that what I'm
Would you
hearing?
go there and be part of that?
I can go as well and be a part of that, yes.
Thank you. Do we just want to do this by consensus, or is there a motion to be had?
I think that's consensus, isn't it?
Are we
Everybody's
all right
kind
with
of
that?
agreement
Everybody
there.
okay?
It's worth looking into, that's for sure.
By consensus, okay. We now have the public forum. Those of you out there who have an issue, want to bring it forward and talk to the council, you're more than welcome. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. We ask that the speaker state their name and address, and like you to limit your expression to around 3 minutes. Anybody want to step forward? Boy, it looks like everybody's racing to get up here. All right, public forum is closed. Mayor's report. I'm going to put 2 before 1 so I don't forget it. We have a memo from Gary Nordstrom submitting his resignation from the
Park and Rec.
Park and Rec Commission, and which I believe that we should make a motion to accept that resignation. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second, Hecox, to accept Gary Nordstrom's resignation from the Park and Rec. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
I would like to make an announcement along with that. We now have 2, probably 3 commission vacancies. One will be planning and zoning, the other one will be Park and Rec, and possibly also EDA. And so would like to announce that anybody that's interested, see our city clerk, Shar Nelson, and you can make application here at City Hall, or at least get a form and submit it at your leisure. What we would like to do is have those in, have them reviewed, and be able to make an appointment in the December meeting. So be aware, commission positions are open. Are you guys all right with that?
Sounds good.
Good. Next report is from the Minnesota Design Team Project for the Cross Lakers. Dean Fitch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pass that along.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch.
I'm going to give you a little update on the design team process. You've seen some of this before, so I'll be swift about it. Since our last meeting, we have worked on expanding what we call the work groups, and you may recall, these are the individual groups that are developing and working at the local level on given projects. And these projects are loosely identified as you see here. We have established a work group in 7 of these and 5 more that are in development. Actually, as of today, there's another one that's been added, but it's kind of a dynamic process. But what happens with the work groups is, thank you, John. John is always keeping me on track, and you know that's a good thing. Anyway, the work groups will work with the individual projects that you've heard about or seen about, and their job is to take that project and run with it and develop it, and then come back to our Strategic Advisory Committee, and then ultimately back to the council on moving forward with the project. So these are in varying states of development. Some are moving faster than others. Some are short-term projects. Some are going to be very long-term projects. So this is just kind of giving you an update on the ones at the top of the list are underway and have been working, some of them for 2 months, some of them as little as 3 weeks. So they're in development. The ones on the bottom of the list, the other 5, are defined as important projects. Things have been happening, but we haven't defined a particular work group to tackle them as yet, and that's in the process. The other major thing that's happening is the development of the Strategic Advisory Committee. It's to be made up of 7 members that are to be interviewed by committee, and the committee that's going to do the interviewing is to be 4 people. 3 of them have been selected. The 4th is to be added. We wanted the 4th person to be a sitting or recently elected city council, mayor person who would help us. And the purpose of this is to find, select people who will look at this project from a strategic view, a long-term view, and will help us develop it over a long period of time. So the interviewing will begin in November, and we hope to have that process up and running hopefully before the first of the year. So these are the 2 major things going on. And then just in the stuff I've handed you, you also have, just as a reminder, that's what the organizational process looks like. So the Strategic Advisory Committee is yet to be developed. It's in process. The funding task force is being worked on. So is the Cross Lake Public Relations team. And then, as I've shown you now, there's 12 work groups that have begun their process and are underway. Any questions? See, I promised to be brief today.
We're already worn out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. It's an interesting project. City Administrators Report.
Item 1 is a draft request for proposal for a comprehensive plan update and the request to move forward with advertising. You see a draft of a request for proposal in front of you. As noted in the agenda item is to update the current comprehensive plan based on what's going on in the community, including the work of the Minnesota design team. I think at this point the group would like comments on what you think of the RFP. This came from a listserv that I did with the Minnesota City Managers Association to get some ideas for an RFP. It's fairly standard. Does talk about on the last page the schedule for the start date in February and get it done by the end of 2017. And again, to try to update and incorporate what's going on in the community, including the work of the design team, to update the comprehensive plan for the community.
I don't think there's any doubt that it probably should be reviewed. Apparently, with that time frame, you guys are interested in getting started so that it's completed in a timely fashion.
I think, Gary, were you involved in?
Yes, I'll make the motion to go ahead with it.
Motion, Hecox, to approve the request for proposal for a comprehensive plan update.
I'll second.
Brad Nelson seconds. Any further discussion?
I was talking to Dan earlier on this. My understanding was we're just trying to update what we have. This is not a complete rewrite.
It's not a complete rerun.
All right.
I just had one question on, let's see, section 4, where, on the top of the page where there's 5 items listed. Are these people going to be able to answer those? Or what are they going to do with a stormwater plan? I can understand transportation plan, natural resources, but a sewer plan and a water plan is
Where are you at?
right here. Water plan meets city water.
Where'd you see, I don't see that.
It's on the top of the,
Is that
On the
top of
top
services?
yeah, top of the next page.
Third page,
Mr.
on
Mayor.
the backside. I just wondered if they're gonna understand what that means, or if somebody's gonna tell them what that means. Because I don't know what it means. I don't know what we're asking.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, comp plans I've seen in the past, I mean, typically on all those, there might be an attached map of current and proposed, where are we planning to expand the city's utility lines, for example?
Right.
And at what stage, you know, by 2020 or 50, or, and that would be after talking with Ted and others to gather that information, but that would be a planning tool.
There might be nothing on that page.
Well, that's the whole idea of a comp plan is, you know,
All right, well,
It's
I
potential.
mean, we don't even know what that would look like.
well, that's the goal of a comp plan, is to help guide so that if I want to buy a piece of commercial land, you know, on the outskirts of town, I might have a guess of what your intent is in terms of getting new streets or utilities or whatever out there.
Right.
You've never looked at the comp plan?
I think
Yes, oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think the important thing here is it says potential.
Right, yeah.
It isn't one of the problems we have is that plans are considered to be cast in concrete, and I really believe that plans are a guiding tool. And that's, I think it was well said, Brad.
Okay,
So,
good.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 The second item is
Is that unanimous, by the way?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
The second item is a memo from myself dated November 10th regarding non-contract employee wage and benefit adjustments. An item added to the agenda, I apologize for not having this attached to the memo, is the memo from staff dated November 2nd, and then the current sick leave policy. Now, I'm going to break this up into 2 items. The first item is the wage adjustment request. I've included in the memorandum the justification, I believe, for the 3% request for 2017, and this is based on the union contracts that were settled at 2%, plus a lot of people had steps in there, and when it's sorted out between the 2% plus the steps, it comes out to just about, actually more than 3%, about 3.6%. So I think the 3% would be considered reasonable for 2017, effective January 1. The second item, I think initially there should be some consensus on whether or not the council has any interest in changing its current policy with regards to severance. If you're not interested in changing the policy from where it is now, then we don't have to have the continued discussion. We can just leave it as is. But if you have some interest in the possibility, at least you want to think about it and look into it, I would suggest that that item be put on hold and considered probably at the January meeting. I do plan to attend that, and we can talk about that as a next item, but probably at your January meeting. Department heads had a little bit of discussion on that. We haven't had a chance to meet. I haven't met with the department heads, and they would like to see something a little different than what I had proposed. I'm going to guess it isn't going to be too much different than what I proposed, but I think we can tweak it somewhat. But it does make a pretty significant change. Currently, any hours of sick leave that are accumulated below 800 hours, there's nothing for that. I mean, they just, if they lose it if they don't use it. Anything over 800 hours, they're getting a portion of it into a kind of a severance and portion into a vacation. So,
That's a half a year.
yeah, it is, and yeah, it's, you know, it's something that I'd like some consensus or some discussion on whether or not you'd like to change it. What my proposal, the proposal from the department heads, you can see it was attached, and people, it was a graduated scale over 10 years, they get 25% of that $800, 15 years, 15%, 20 years, 75%. And employees here at over 25 years who get 100% of the 800 hours. My proposal was, okay, you can have one or the other, but not both. But I did have a provision in there that talked about anything over the 800 hours, maybe 50% of that would go into like a deferred comp plan or something like that. Could be almost anything. I'll talk to the department heads about that. But so the one thing that having some incentive to keep your sick leave rather than just using it is this. We have, I believe there are some employees that if they know they're never going to get to that 800 hours, they're probably going to use a day a month as sick leave. I'm not saying that everybody does that, but that does happen. So this, if you have an incentive for them to keep the, to get up to the 800 hours and beyond, it does keep people, certainly keep people at work. I'm not saying that's a rampant problem, but it is it becomes an issue. So I just want to know whether or not you're interested at all in changing what you currently have, and if you are, then we'll come back with a proposal, I think somewhat similar to this, but I think a little tweaking. I'm hearing what they're saying and what the department heads and supervisors are saying, and I think we can tweak this a little bit and come back to you. It is certainly a cost item. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the way it currently is, I mean, you'd be paying for an employee that's here a long time, 20, 25 years, you'd be paying an awful lot out at retirement. In unused sick time. Many cities don't do anything. Little Falls, where I work, did not do anything. We did do a little bit of a phone idea around here. A couple of communities, Breezy Point does do a severance, but they cap it at 240 hours or 250 hours, something like that. Brainerd was different, pretty substantially different in that it was 100% of the unused sick leave up to 960 hours, and that is 6 months. So, as I was the beneficiary of that, either a golden parachute or a golden handcuff, it makes you stay, that's for certain. It is something, but I'd like an idea of if you'd like to make any changes with this or not.
From a bookkeeping and a liability standpoint, do we accrue that? Mm-hmm. We do?
Well, you need to make some kind of provisions for it. What I mentioned at the end of this is what we did in Brainerd is we'd contact our employees at budget time and say, I mean, is anybody planning on retiring in the next year? And if they are, we got to make a provision for it to get it in our books. When Mike and I can talk about that, we can probably set up a fund to start accruing some money out. You don't have to accrue based on 13 employees 100% of the full amount.
Why not?
But you've got to put some money in there.
What about the liability that they could bring to us? I mean, if we are going to be liable for 10 employees and they have accumulated sick leave of $300, why wouldn't we accrue that as a liability?
Yeah, you would, I think, but what I'm saying is you don't accrue the full amount for all the employees in your budget
Well,
each year.
not more
Right.
than what is
Right.
we're liable for.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You'd want to make some provision, but, the question is whether or not you want to start this, and if you do with the department heads and supervisors, like I said, you're going to have all your unions wanting the same deal, so to speak, so.
You have
What do you think?
an expression in your third paragraph, says non-contract. Does that mean non-union?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I have one question, Dan. Aren't we doing a job evaluation with an outside firm? Is this something that they could reflect on? Because I mean, I don't have any good basis to make a decision tonight. I look at 800 and I go, wow.
Yep.
I wonder how many hours are used each year.
You know, we could ask her to survey, add that as a question in their survey to see if they have a severance,
I have no
if there's some kind of
history
severance
on this at
provision.
all to make a educated guess. I just
Right,
have
and that's why
nothing, so.
I agree with you, Councilmember Sharp. That's why I'm pulling it off the agenda. I want an idea of whether or not there's any interest in it, and if there is. I mean, we could put it or add it to the work that Springstead is doing, and just to see if it's out there. I mean, we can take a look at the League of Minnesota Cities salary survey and look at it too, but it's not, as I said, I mean, several communities I'm working with, I mean, they don't have provision like this, but some of them do, and some of them are actually
Where'd the
better than this.
800 hours come from?
I don't know.
This,
I don't know, that's in policy, it's,
this, well, no, the employee handbook was done in October of 2012. The new,
but that part of it didn't change. That handbook isn't all new. That
but there
dates
was
way
a
back.
significant change in the sick leave, but it would,
Didn't
only
change
had to
this.
do with, I think, people that were well over that. I don't think it had anything to do with employees that have been 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, it
It was
didn't
only
change.
at the end, if people had been there 20 years. It was a significant change. I remember looking at it. This doesn't look familiar to me from that, but I remember looking at it, because that was when I was running for an election 4 years ago. And so I remember looking at that.
Yeah,
But
that part didn't
I
change.
don't know that, this was different than what we used to be Chapter 2, if you compare Chapter 2 from old Chapter 2 to this. So that was a significant change, and now this is a different one. And I'm not disagreeing with what's here, I just, looking at it for the first time, read it today, and I certainly understand the idea of inducing employees to come to work. Giving them an incentive to come to work versus, I'm not getting this anyway, I might as well, screw it, I'm sick of work today.
There's no, there's no urgency. There's no imminent retirements going on that we need to do this. I think it's a good idea perhaps to have Springstead look at it and as part of their overall study come back with some information for you as far as how other communities are handling this that we survey.
What's the rate of accrual? What's the annual?
96 hours. It's 8 hours a month. 96.
8 hours a month?
Yeah, 96 a year. 96 hours a year.
I met with the representative, or you think I'm very safe in saying a representative of the department heads in this manner, and I see a couple of points that need to be made. Mark made the comment about incentivizing somebody to come to work. When you say that it doesn't cost you, well, it does. I mean, if they're taking the days off instead of forfeiting the day off, I mean, you potentially are paying for this anyway. Because if they're going to use it and lose it, you made that comment, not saying that everybody does that, but this is the potential, then the city has to pay somebody else to take that spot. They have to get a fill-in, they have to get, a part-timer, so, you know what I'm saying? In most cases, somebody, so, the city is, paying for some of this one way or the other, so you can't look at all of that as being, savings if you let somebody forfeit it. The other idea of consistency of running departments, and, whether it's police or whether it's public works or whether it's, park and rec or anybody. I mean, when you're counting on 3 guys being here today or 5 people being here today and you don't have them, that is potentially a scheduling snafu, and that potentially can cost you money. I kind of stand with them. I think it's something that needs to be reviewed. I see why, if I'm the good guy that doesn't just blow off a day at work every time my nose sniffles, why don't I get a little bit rewarded for that? And I actually have not read that, but, that 800-hour deal was not brought to my attention until this, and I think that there needs to be some type of a happy medium here. I think it's good for employee morale, that, like I reward my guys when, if they're truly sick, I know, I can handle it in a different manner because I'm a private business, but I know when you're really sick or whether you're, buffooning me, so, I'm gonna make sure you get paid, I'm gonna make sure you're taken care of when you are sick, but I'm gonna expect you to come in there with, a broken arm on 4th of July when the chips are down and we need to get things done, and you perform like that for me, you get rewarded for it, and I think that type of goodwill can go a long way. So I think in my viewpoint of reviewing this, I think that the department heads who are not represented by a union, and I appreciate the fact that everybody looks at what everything does. Heavens, we found that out with the phone company this year, and that, what this guy gets over here. But still, this is a separate matter. The union will negotiate the way the unions negotiate when that comes back around. In the meantime, we're talking about representation here for the department heads. So I would encourage council, I think that this is something that the department heads are concerned about. I think they have good reason to be. I think that it's definitely a morale booster. I think that it's a useful tool for the heads of departments to manage their people better. And I think that I don't know where this falls in with the people that are going to be doing I think this is a little out of the realm of those folks that are coming in to do our reviews on, although they might have some information on this, but I don't think we sit around and wait for them to do it. I think this is something that we can be digging into a little bit, looking at what was proposed by the department heads, looking at what Dan's counter or Dan's thoughts were, and then let's, like we do with any negotiation, just like we did with the unions and everybody else, then you start, going back and forth and seeing what we can do to make everybody happy. But I think there's definitely legitimacy in this from the department heads.
Well,
And I have spoken with them.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in here, the department heads, obviously, you can't go into closed session and talk about it, otherwise I'd sit
Exactly.
down and talk to you. I think it's unfortunate that department heads are coming straight to council members. I think that's inappropriate. I think.
Yeah,
it's
that
too
wasn't the
It's-
case here,
It's too bad that they
I
put you
I
into
have the
that
ability to
position.
look at my, I have the ability to look at my packet and ask my own questions.
And,
you know.
they can go through me to get that stuff. They put you in a tough, kind of a tough
No, I
position. But-
I don't mind talking to department heads. Like I said, I can look at my packets and I have the ability to go out and ask my own
Oh, yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
So-
I'm not
So there was,
saying
there
that
was,
at all.
there was nothing I'd felt that was, as far as, difficult in that. I went looking to ask the questions.
Oh, okay.
They didn't come looking.
They said they came.
No,
you said
well, I
they came
mean,
to you, so-
I'd recently had meetings, what I meant to
Sure,
say,
sure.
but I mean, I walked in the office to ask the questions, I was not approached,
Sure.
so, just so everybody's clear on that.
Well, I'll, like I said, I'm going to put this on hold at this point. I'll come back to you at your, probably your January meeting with a proposal. It doesn't sound like you want to go ahead with the Springstead thing, so I'll just come back with a proposal. I don't think there's a problem. We're going to come back to it with an understanding on this. The other one is the effective 1/1, the wage adjustment. So it's up to you on what you want to do with that.
Do you want us to act on that tonight, or?
I think that should be acted on,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
we're not gonna-
makes sense with me.
yeah. And I thought, because Dave, you and I were involved with the union negotiations, and we, definitely understood that whole step process and the whole deal, I make a motion that we accept the 3% as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion Nelson, second Schrupp to, how do we say that,
3%
Dan? Give me
region
some words.
3% to the non-union.
Right,
Starting
3%
on-
adjustment to the non-union.
Starting 1/1/17.
Right, 1/1/17.
Shar, is that okay? You got that?
Just
All
got
right.
that.
I have a question, though, while we're in.
Comments? Yep.
We're effectively tabling without tabling the sick leave part. Can we talk about that again before the 17th, or you don't think there's any hurry for that? Do you want to do that in December, or do you want to do that wait in
Thought we
January?
had agreed to talk about that as we went on, but we were going to approve this one portion.
You
of
can,
it,
and you can make it effective January 1. I suggest, I mean, I'd like to be here for it, obviously. It depends upon what you do with your next item, obviously. But,
Who,
to
Dan's
come up-
item?
Yeah, exactly, to come up with.
Oh, I know the motion is
proposal.
just for the pay increase to 3%,
right.
but we didn't talk, we've talked about the 6, are we just postponing that till December? Are we going to talk about it right after this? What are we doing?
My suggestion is January.
January, all right. That was my question.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then the next item, item 3, is, as I mentioned, 2017 consulting fees. It's time to decide, I guess, what you're going to do with me. I've been kind of on a year-to-year thing. My contract with you has a 90-day cancellation clause, so you can, even if you do something, and let's say we want to start into 2017, obviously you're going to have a new mayor and you're going to have a new council member, you can always cancel my services if you choose to do that at that point. But my suggestion, I haven't raised my rate in a couple years, the suggestion is go from 65 an hour to 75 an hour, and also that I would continue to, or come back here at least for a couple meetings in this winter, if you pay from the actual cost. Right now, I think that's probably, to get back up here is about $400 or less in that general area. So it depends on how you want to handle that. I've been doing this work about 3 years and 8 months, I guess, for you, and I wouldn't mind continuing to do that if you want to see me continue.
I'll just make a comment that I think Mr. Nelson may agree with, but having sat through the union negotiations, and people there are aware of other departments like the phone company, and the phone company's getting X. I just find it hard. The increase you've asked for is over 15%, and we just passed the 3% for the staff. So I don't know how this, if I run the staff, I would look like what's happening here. How can we give 15 to the city administrator and only 3 to the staff people? So that's the issue I have. So I don't know if you settled for 3.
Yeah, and I don't take any benefits and get any of that either. So it's like it's been a couple years. I mean, you gave what, 3 or 3.5 you got last year for 2016? What did staff get? 3 or 3.5? 3.5. 3 for 17. I haven't had an adjustment in a couple years.
And he's doing it on a consultant part-time, 13 grand for this year so far, something like that?
What's that?
14 grand you've charged us, something like that this year is all? So it's not a huge expenditure.
I have a problem with reimbursing you for airfare to Florida and travel between.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Twin
it's
Cities and here. I don't know.
it's
where you
obviously
fly
it's
from.
my issue.
Do you fly
It
from
isn't
Brandon
yours.
or do you fly from the Twin Cities?
Usually from the Twin Cities.
Yeah. So,
It's
you
my
know,
issue. I'm just going to give you a for instance, and it's just, hopefully it'll make some sense to you. You pay a labor lawyer from Duluth to Cross Lake and back, and that's costing you about $1,000 every time you do it. I mean, it's going to cost probably around $400 to bring me here. So I'm just giving you a for instance, just as a comparison. And you're paying them, you're paying $2.25 an hour for the labor lawyer, and my suggestion is 75. So.
Well, as you know, I've been a huge supporter of what you've helped us with in the last 3.5 years. You've done a lot for us. You bring a lot of experience with the multiple communities that you've worked for. And I don't know if you're looking for a motion tonight or anything like that, but I'm the outgoing person on this board. So, well, Steve and I both are. But I just, for my 2 cents, I don't think this is outlandish, especially considering what you've done for us and the fact that you don't collect money when you're not working for us. I.e. sitting here and when we don't need you.
Yeah, I plan to be available via phone for the December and the other meetings. So, I mean, I need to know.
Yep.
Tonight, I need to know if you're going to retain me or not. So that's
I don't think-
kind of
I didn't see it.
where I'm at, and
That's not what this vote is.
well, it kind of is.
No, it's
right
not.
now. The last motion you made back in, it was to retain me through 2016. That's the motion that was made.
No, we
to
extended it
retain me
here.
for another year.
We
So I
extended it
want to
through
know.
2016.
It was about a year ago we did that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last meeting I'm going to be at this year.
We're, you know.
That's not
I'm-
that's not your
I think there's
problem.
2 separate things. We want you on board, but what do we want to pay you? You know, I don't see that
Sorry.
I don't see that accepting or approving or not approving your compensation unless you're going to make a decision because we do or don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother issue. and I don't know what that is, but I don't see that. You talk about consulting fees, you didn't talk about retaining Dan Vogt for another umpteen years, and that isn't in this proposal.
I don't question, I guess, maybe the increase, considering the time so much. I do believe that the arrangement is different and perhaps awkward to explain or to justify in some ways. And I think that Councilman Schrupp would probably agree with me that we ran head into a situation when we were put in the difficult position of becoming union negotiators as councilmen, just like you were referring today about the about me speaking to council heads, but once again, like I said, I went looking for them, they didn't come looking for me. But anyway, excuse me, to department heads, but I think that's what my comment is that I think that, this conversation's been going back and forth, and my mind is not quite as solidified perhaps now as it was a year ago on the fact that we maybe, starting after the first of the year, need to address long-term the situation about, what are we going to do about a city administrator position? And nothing, Danny, you bring a wealth of knowledge, and the last 3.5 years ended up the way they are, but just moving forward, I just don't know if this type of arrangement long-term is in the best interest of the city. I think that's more the conversation that I want to see being had moving forward here, than just sitting here right now where, the $10 an hour and the travel fees, dollar-wise, percentage-wise, I get where Mr. Schrupp's coming from, percentage-wise and everything, but at the end of the day, it's not a lot of dollars. So that's my comment. I'm very neutral on this whole thing, but I'm just putting that back out there again, that I think we need to start addressing, I just don't see this type of arrangement as being the long-term best interest for the city of Cross Lake.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem with that. The other situations I've worked in, I worked at Little Falls, and I knew they were going to hire an administrator. I didn't anticipate it to be a long-term thing. I don't anticipate this to be, frankly, too much longer, to be honest with you. But I'd be willing to continue it until you decide what you want to do long-term.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Your contract has got a 90-day
Yeah.
for you or for us.
Yeah,
So if
sure.
we extend your contract right now, it's at least for 90 days. Okay?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's-
I've got
if we extend it for a year, it's, the next council wants to do more things. And then the other point I guess I'd like to point out is in the last year, at EDA meetings, at Park and Rec meetings, everywhere else, everybody's talking about how well the city is running these days, and I'd like to put my 2 cents in. Mr. Vogt is a large part of that. But we do have Mr. Linus and Shar. 4 years ago when she stepped into the clerk's seat, she did a fantastic job. Nobody knew what we had sitting there. And our department heads are doing a great job, and largely I think that's because of the job that Mr. Vogt has done for us. And so he has my vote of confidence. I'll make the motion to extend it for another year. And again, with that provision he's got in there for 90 days either way. And so if you guys decide after the first of the year you want to do something else, you certainly can, but at least give him a little direction for the short term. So that was my motion, is to extend it for his contract for another year.
I'll second that.
At the rate he's got in here with $400 travel.
Does that approve the 2017 consulting fees as proposed?
He said
my
yes.
memo.
Yeah, as
No, that
proposed.
isn't, he didn't say that.
The fees, yeah, I did say that, but it was after I got my second. I apologize for that.
So Shar, would you repeat the motion, please?
To extend Dan Vogt's contract for 1 year with a 90-day provision, with the fee increase to $75 per hour plus travel expenses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Hecox, you to second
I'll
that?
second.
All right.
Motion Wessels, second Hecox. Shar repeated the message. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next?
No,
Is that,
no,
No?
We got one way.
no.
All right.
It wouldn't have shown up.
I know.
We have an item, memo dated November, by the way, thank you, I appreciate it. And like I said, I'll work with you to whatever I can, and if you decide to go a different direction, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Dan.
Memo November 10th from the city clerk regarding a licensing ownership change for Zorbas of Cross Lake, Inc. The applicant is in the audience, I believe, and would like to speak with the council, and perhaps when he's on his way up to the microphone, if you'd like, if you invite him up, Mr. Mayor, I can tell you that his background investigation has been returned and is okay. Yeah. I thought maybe with the police chief starting to walk up behind you, there was a problem, but
Who I need to
I guess
follow,
not,
so.
so.
He escaped.
Well, this is the first time I'm doing this, so.
Introduce yourself, please.
Huh?
You are?
Oh, I'm Matias Latorre. I'm the new operating partner of Zorbas on Cross Lake.
Okay.
I became the operating partner a month ago, October 1st, pretty much.
Welcome.
6 weeks. I'm a former chef.
Do you know how to make pizza?
I know how to make the best pizza you eat. I'm originally from Chile. I'm a permanent resident. I'm a green card holder. I'm not a citizen.
That's interesting.
But at the same time, I've been living in the U.S. for like 10 years. My background in cooking is in Vail, Colorado. I was a chef at Madden's, and I was executive sous chef at Granville Lodge till 2 months ago. So I got this crazy idea to leave fine dining cooking, and I own a pizza joint. So one of my best friends encouraged me to do this. His name is Lee Johnson, Lee J. He opens Zorbas on Cross Lake. And my wife has also worked for Lee J for 14 years. So I got into the Zorbas family like 10 years ago, but this is the first time that I actually work with them.
Welcome to Cross Lake.
Thank you very much. I love the town. I live around Gold Lake area still. But I was very excited to meet all you guys and introduce myself and answer any questions, or I didn't know what to be prepared for or not, so I never done it. So
Very good.
that's who I am, and we're here to change the title, the liquor license over my name, so we can keep operating Zorbas on Cross Lake.
I like your Superman logo on your shirt.
I like it too.
It reminds me of the S, but it's a Z. I
Correct.
think that's good.
I make a motion to accept the ownership change of Zorbas and Cross Lake.
I'll second that motion. Motion Nelson, second row, to accept the ownership change and licensing for Zorbas and Cross Lake.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Nice to meet you.
New menu?
New menu, pizza and spaghetti, I'll bet.
They don't get rid of my favorite pizza.
Item 5, under my report, I have an update on the maintenance of town square roads. Ted and I met with Jim Anderson and his maintenance person over at the site in Town Square in mid to late October. I think it was like October 18th. We talked to Jim about a number of different items. One of the things we talked about is actually dedicating the roadways to the public. And I said, if you do that, I mean, you have to deed them to us. I talked to Brad about that a little bit, the city attorney, and he said, no, they're interested in maintaining control. They want to maintain control of the roadway. And when we talked about what I'd be interested in, what they'd be interested in, I'm talking about Jim, what they'd be interested in is, us plowing snow. Basically plowing the snow off the roads. Again, we talked about, some type of an easement or some sort, some way of us to be on those roads. And also we talked about the cost. And we said, well, what kind of price would we be talking about? And Ted and I had talked about it a little bit, and he said kind of the general between a truck and a person in that truck is about $75 an hour. And he said, well, that's kind of what we're paying today. So as long as we're paying that today, I said, doing it, having the city do it really doesn't save any money. They're interested in saving some money. So it was a very good meeting, a cordial meeting, and at the end of the day, Jim said, well, if it's the same price or we'd have to dedicate those roads, I guess we're just not interested at this point. So it was a good meeting, no issues, no problems, but at least they gave it a shot. And so
I had a conversation today with Bruce Larson, who was working with him on it, and he kind of gave me the indication that they would like to dedicate those streets to the city. Is there some
What I got from
miscommunication?
Jim.
There must be some miscommunication somewhere. I don't know if Bruce has got it wrong or you've got it wrong, but
No, Jim, I mean, you certainly, Ted can,
they didn't want to pay the city to plow them, but as far as that, they want the city to take it over, and it's a city street.
yeah, I don't know. Ted, what'd you hear?
That isn't what I guess I heard from Mr. Anderson. It didn't fit in with his future plans for what they want to do down there, so.
He said
I-
we want to maintain control of the development.
Well, I have to get, I guess, I don't know, why I have to look at that again, because I had a phone call today, and it was like that they wanted to just dedicate the streets to the city. They were done to city specs, I think you mentioned that before.
Yes, they had been reviewed by the engineers at that
Okay.
time, so.
So I don't know what's going on there then, but I just got a phone call on that today, that's not what we wanted at all. So anyway, I guess this saga
Things can
will-
change in
This saga
time
will live
period.
on, I
They
guess.
certainly can. Maybe they had a conversation, and we'll hear from them again, but,
Let's, by consensus here, consider it a dead issue unless they bring it up again.
yeah.
Is that all right?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
And then item 6, Mike.
Yeah, this is item F6 in your council packet, and what I just wanted to share with you as soon as I had some information on it. So I get a lot of questions from a lot of different people on what is our tax rate compared to this year to last year for what we proposed, what the council proposed as a levy. So if, I'm just going to point out a couple numbers on here so you can, look at this at your leisure. What this represents is a proposed tax rate from the county, and it's based on the levy that this council certified to the county on a preliminary basis back in September. So the number I just circled represents the adjustment from this same information last year from the final levy. And the biggest number most people are interested in is what does that do to our tax rate? And if you remember during budget time, we had a lot of discussion on, well, what does this levy do to our tax rate? And so we got some very preliminary numbers from the county. And so Dan and I took our best shot at, what do we think our tax rate adjustment would be based on what we're seeing happen to market values. And we estimated, when we did this back a few months ago, is we'd be somewhere less than 0.5% adjustment in our tax rate. And our actual change in tax rate between this year and last year's is pretty close to what we thought it would be. Now, I'm gonna rely on being good because we're just not that lucky, so we're gonna take credit when we can, right? So what that does is it makes your tax rate about a little over 28%. Information, no, this is preliminary, that's subject to change. It can go down, but it can't go up. The rest of the information in here gives you, this is really small. What it is, it's the entire county. It shows, you can look at this at your leisure, but it shows all the different proposed tax rates for all the taxing jurisdictions in the county.
It doesn't
Okay.
include cities.
It sure does.
Next page does.
Flip the page.
Huh?
Next page does.
If you look at,
On the next page,
yeah,
Mike.
it's on the next page.
On the back-
There's
back
combined
page.
rates, but,
Yeah.
they're all listed in there. And just a little different format from what they used to do. And you can see Cross Lake right here. And you can see how you compare to other communities in the county. It gives you the county rate, the city rate, the school rate, any development commissions, hospitals, and other special taxing districts. So they're broken out by school district. Not everyone lives that is in Cross Lake is in the same school district. Now you've got Pine River, Bacchus, Crosby, and Pequot. But the important thing is your overall tax rate is real similar to what it was last year at the proposed tax rate, okay? So that's all I wanted to bring to your attention, is that that information is there. And if you want to have more detailed discussions on, you know where I'm at every day. Okay?
That's all we have. Thank you.
I have one question. I thought at the last budget meeting that we had taken out the proposed tandem dump truck with the plow that we had proposed because it was a good deal. I was of the opinion that the council refused that proposal, but it didn't make the minutes. And so I'm curious as to what happened. What did we do that I'm missing?
We had a lot of discussion on it, but we really didn't decide what to do with it.
Yeah,
So
right.
since then, I've had a few questions. One was from Mr. Schrupp asking, what does that do to our 2017 levy? And because we haven't decided what to do with that, the way I built that into the budget was I made the assumption that the dump truck would be paid with debt. We'd issue equipment certificates just like we did for the fire truck. And then we'd make sure we issued certificates in an amount adequate to pay the first year's interest. And then we'd have a levy for the principal and interest payments in 2017, payable for 2018.
Yep.
So what does that mean for your 2017 levy? It doesn't impact it.
No, but it's still an open item.
It's still an open item, that's
And
correct.
I thought we had dismissed it.
We talked about it, we didn't decide what to do with it.
I would,
I mean, if you
I would
want
like
me
to
to pull
put
it
that
out,
issue
you
to
can.
bed.
Well, we can do
and-
that right now if you'd like.
Yep.
You can,
But it's up to the council.
yeah.
It's still an open item. We still, basically, without disapproving it, have approved the purchase of a tandem dump truck with a plow.
I'm looking at our minutes. Page 2, October 24. It's B2 in your thing, and on the second page, big, long paragraph, third one down, does say we dismissed it. I don't know, didn't make a vote on it, we just didn't approve it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't officially,
It says your work staff thought the
I
truck
think it
would
was
benefit.
consensus that it wasn't going to go in there, so.
Yeah.
But the money stays in there as slush, we just might not spend it.
There's no money.
There's no money there unless we
Oh,
decide to
that's right,
issue
because you put it in as a debt
certificates.
item then,
Yep.
instead of a, yeah.
That doesn't preclude us from purchasing it at this juncture.
Yeah, you read that, it looks like we killed it already, but if
I
you
would
want to
like to
kill
make
it
a
again, we
motion
can.
that we drop the tandem dump from the possibility of purchase for the coming year. And that's a motion, but if you don't want to do it, that's up to you guys.
Well, we can kill it again if you want. You want a second for that?
Yep,
It's just not buying the truck is what you're saying, right?
no, we're not buying the
Not
truck.
buying the truck, this year at least, okay.
Motion,
I'll
Rowe.
second.
Second, Wessels. Any more discussion on that one? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any other
Motion's
questions?
unanimous. Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions on that?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
It's dead now.
cleaning up the table here. Economic development. Sheila Haverkamp is here. I don't know, is Shar Kinzer here with you?
She's there.
Oh, there she is. She's hiding. I couldn't see her. Going to talk to us about what we do with the RUS funds that we have been managing through the EDA, through the telephone company or Cross Lake Communications. Since we no longer control or own Cross Lake Communications, we're no longer eligible to maintain or manage those funds. Sheila has a proposal for us. Thank you.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor and council members. Sheila Haverkamp with the Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation. And Shar Kinzer is with me. She'll be talking here in a minute, but I also wanted to mention Paul Means. And Paul Means is on the Bladeck Board of Directors. He's also very involved in the community through Riverwood Bank. So welcome, Paul, too. And there's two items on the agenda, and so I'm just going to quickly cover the first item, and so then we can set that aside. And that's the concept of the Unified Fund, the Bladeck Unified Fund, and there was a PowerPoint presentation in your packet. And we're working diligently as an economic development organization to streamline all the pools of money that exist in Crow Wing County to make it really easy for companies to access funding to help them with their projects. And you'll see that conversation coming up again in future meetings, and we're feeling really optimistic from talking with all the partners that that pool of funds will be congregated, as well as a process put into place that will allow the RUS participants such as CTC and Crow Wing Power to participate with that as well. So we're excited, and I wanted you to know that if you have questions, I'm more than happy to talk about the Unified Fund concept. But really, the deep conversation that the Economic Development Committee of Cross Lake wanted to have with the council tonight dealt with the pool of funds that the mayor spoke about and the need to make some decisions related to those dollars. And when you sold the Cross Lake Telecommunications Company and that buyer was no longer an RUS eligible entity, USDA has asked the city to make some decisions. And you can make the decision to return the $300,000 original grant and then keep the approximately $140,000, which currently is in the form of receivables. There'd be a little extra cash there, but primarily receivables from 3 different companies to do future activity of the city, whatever that might be. Or you could transfer the full $440,000, which would be a little over $300,000 in cash and about $140,000 in receivables, to Crow Wing Power, an RUS eligible entity, to keep that funds in our community, keeping it working for economic growth and activity. And of course, as an economic development organization, we recognize the need for those types of monies. Oftentimes when we're working with business and industry, we can get the bank to participate with X number of dollars. We can get equity at a certain level, but we still need additional sources of financing. And so we're really hopeful and optimistic that this unified fund will allow us to market the dollars a lot better, allow us to help companies access those pools in a more streamlined approach. And we're excited for what the future holds. And of course, your money is really important if we can at all possibly keep it local to help our companies grow and expand. And so with me, like I said, is Shar Kinzer. Shar has worked closely as an economic development partner throughout our service territory of Crow Wing, and or even beyond. And she will speak to their interest in having those funds to make their pool even larger.
Yeah, well, I do the economic development work with the rural development loans that are similar to yours. Crow Wing Power has about $350,000 in revolving loan funds that originated from grants, such as yours originated from grants. And we've partnered with Cross Lake in a couple of our loans. Typically, they're gap financing that is needed in order for a project to move forward. Currently, we have a joint loan with Cross Lake for Golden Horizons Assisted Living. And we've, I think, partnered before in Crosstech. Mike, have you had Crosstech before with yours? Yeah. And Crosstech was a good example of what a revolving loan fund, a little bit of gap financing to do to kick them off. And that was a really nice project. So we would assume your Golden Horizons loan that you currently have, that's an outstanding loan, and they would, instead paying you, they would pay us back, and we would add it to our revolving loan funds. Now, with Sheila's unified fund, whether the unified fund goes or not, although I see the county, the city of Brainerd, I see Consolidated Telephone Company, even Crow Wing Power supportive of that unified fund, in that it makes administration of the and the legwork needed to be done to assure that good loans are made it takes the burden of that off of Crowing Power. We're not a bank, so we rely on other entities to do that due diligence on loans. For whether, like I said, whether the unified fund works or not doesn't matter, because we're a rural electric utility and an RUS borrower, we have to have, our board has the ultimate say in where those loans go. So even if the unified fund comes before our board of directors and says, we'd like to use $100,000 of your revolving loan fund, which would be a joint, we would have a compilation of both your funds and our funds, and maintain those. Our board of directors makes the decision on whether that loan is made or not. And you, as a city of Cross Lake, have two representatives on our Crowing Power board. One is Doris Mazanga currently, and the other one is Luann Nelson. And they're both very good, intelligent people. And so you would always have somebody to go to and say, we really want this project in our city, and they've come before you for a loan, we'd like to see it go. So I'm saying that you might, ultimately you're losing control over where those funds go. But I think you all know Crowing Power is very supportive of Cross Lake, obviously very supportive of economic development. We're probably one of the most aggressive gap loan financiers in, that I'm aware of, because that's, we're in the business of helping people. And so I would appreciate not seeing it go back to the United States. And if you feel comfortable that Crowing Power can adequately manage those funds for you, we would love to do that.
Thank you, Shar. Interesting. This isn't a real straightforward set of options for us. There's many pieces to this, and I find it interesting. I think you would do you'd be a great administrator as a Crowing Power.
Thank you.
Podium, right? He's got to come to the podium.
Well, I think we'll leave that up to the two ladies sitting here.
Oh, fine.
May I join you? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good evening, Bob Perkins, 35333 County Road 37, Cross Lake. I'm actually here, I'm not as a resident of Cross Lake, but I've had the fortune to work with Bladek for a number of years, in particular with rural economic development. And so some of the things, I mean, they've been a great strategic partner for us. They've brought a lot of businesses to our area. The company that I work with, we've done north of $3 million worth of loans through rural economic development, and also partnering with Crowing Power and things. So I'm encouraging you to add to the pool and to create a fund that helps our community in general. Not just the city of Cross Lake, but the community, and it will add strategic partners such as Bladek, and they bring a business line of thinking to our community. So just from that perspective, I just wanted to share that, and that they've been a great partner for Crow Wing County in the area, but also communities that have touched, and they have been in within our city boundaries already. So thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you. I have a comment that I would like to make. I mentioned it earlier today, and I think there's a growth factor here in this area, Brainerd Lakes area, that we haven't figured out yet. We had a 5 times demand for bandwidth at Cross Lake Communications as we were selling it for a period of time which usually peaks on about the 4th of July and goes right back down and just levels out and might peak again around Labor Day. We have also experienced increased flows at our sewage treatment plant. We heard a proposal earlier this evening, and it's forcing us to have to do something. So if it truly is area growth, we're going to need all the funds we can find to enable, facilitate, entice growth in our communities. And I'm not saying that it's just Cross Lake, it's the Brainerd Lakes area. And we all work together to make this work. It helps Cross Lake, it helps us all. Anybody else? I just stepped to the podium and stepped down.
You forgot to introduce yourself.
What?
Never
Oh.
mind.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm Paul Means, and Sheila introduced me earlier. I'm with Riverwood Bank, and I live in Brainerd. But we also have a branch in Cross Lake, though. And Bart Taylor was going to be here this evening, but he had other plans. I think he's at ski school of all places tonight, so he learned how to be a ski
That was
instructor.
SKI or
SKI,
SEA?
Yep.
Colorado, I think he is.
Out in Colorado. So anyway,
Oh,
I just,
gosh.
I want to just add to some of the other discussion, but, you know, as a Bladec board member and somebody who's followed Sheila around for the last several years, you know, I think the one thing is, you know, Bladec, like a lot of other economic development organizations, has limited resources. We happen to have a very talented executive director who works very hard at what she does, and she does a very good job at it. And this unified fund is something that she's been wanting to do for a number of years. And, you know, today's the day, or this point in time is when she's ready to kind of kick this off. So Cross Lake participating in this, I think, is kind of a feather in her cap in terms of getting this thing jump-started. So we appreciate any support we can get from the city of Cross Lake in terms of obviously not turning the money over to the government, but also supporting Bladec and the efforts of Bladec and specifically Sheila Haverkamp.
Thank you.
In my simple assessment of this, I mean, what we have to gain is we let it all go away, and we slowly, if there's no default, would get $140,000 worth of interest, which incidentally wasn't really ever meant to be profit. We didn't know that we were really going to sell the phone company if that was that those monies got paid back. They just went back into the fund to be used again. It wasn't anything we were going to remove for city benefit, so to speak. I think it would be a shame at this point. I mean, I just can simplify this whole thing in my own mind that you're giving 300 back that heaven knows what government does with it. It's going somewhere, we know. And it certainly isn't going to end up here to aid in our community. So Cross Lake, like I said, this all started right around our clinic years ago. I mean, kind of is how this got rolling. And, you know, we got a clinic in town because of it. That definitely is, you know, everybody can agree, I think is, you know, was a great, great thing. So, you know, I look at this, and my point is just that we never really intended to take this money as profit anyway. It's just because of the sale of the phone company we have to make a decision, but that was just going to continue to feed the revolving fund and to do more good in the future and to bring in more business, which means more tax and jobs and whatever. So I'm prepared to make a motion that we transfer it to Crow Wing.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Motion Nelson, we need a second.
I'll second it.
Second Schrupp. Any more discussion?
Yes, it's a resolution. It should be a resolution.
Yeah, this is the resolution that was included in your packet, including
The new
the
one.
revised resolution that was handed out tonight as part of the
B1.
amended agenda. So it would be the resolution relating to the transfer of rural utility service funds to Crow Wing Cooperative Power and Light Company.
Are we okay with that? You guys all right? Legal and administrative? Shar, you got it?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then, as part of this also, and maybe that's why Mike's up here, there would be a discussion regarding closing the bank account and the fund. So, Mike.
Yeah, once we get that process approved through U.S. Department of Agriculture, we need a motion to officially close that bank account upon transfer, because we have to send them the cash, and the bank will want something authorizing them to officially close that account. So in addition to the resolution for that transfer, I'd ask that you have a motion and pass a resolution to close the bank account associated with the
Can't we do
revolving
that
loan
after
fund.
you empty it? You're going to need that account for some of these late, you and I had
Pending.
quite a discussion today
Yeah.
about how things wander on. Do you really
Yeah.
want to close it at this juncture?
Well, we'll close it upon transfer of that
Right.
Of the last dollar, right?
Yep. So it's a simultaneous transaction. Think of it that way.
I'll make the motion to close the bank account after the transfer of the last dollar.
I'll
Yep.
second that.
Okay, thank you.
Motion Wessel, second Nelson. That is when the coast is clear, so to speak, when all the transactions have cleared, all right? And, well, it's, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's a second item here that I don't think we're going to present tonight. Is that correct? Do you want to present your unified fund proposal?
You know, I think that we'll continue those conversations at the Economic Development Committee and come back and keep you
Excellent.
posted and ask for a permanent liaison.
Okay.
But it's definitely in work, being organized. We got the legal team drawing up all the documents, and Cross Lake will definitely be involved and have a seat at the table.
Have you reviewed the resolution, Brad?
Yes,
Are we okay on that?
looks fine.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
if I
you.
Look
can-
forward to working with you.
If I can too, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you all noticed it in your packet, maybe this is something for Shar with Crowing Powers. Item B20 is they're talking about removing vegetation on their power lines, and this is on Anchor Point Road. And you know, when they remove the vegetation, I mean, it's going to be removed. And we're hoping that they're contacting the residents in the area that this is happening, because if they don't contact them, we're going to be hearing about it. And of course, you're going to be hearing about it. But I just wanted to say,
it's too
I
bad.
believe they are going ahead and contacting the neighbors, so.
It's too
Crowing
bad.
Power
we-
always gives about, I think, at least 6 months' notice, and if you have an issue, please contact us, and we'll have somebody come out to your property and meet with you.
Well, we'll give you the money if you don't take all the brush out.
Yeah, then you'll have power outages.
No, not yet.
No, I got my Anchor Point letter as an Anchor Point resident, and you did an awesome job of explaining the maps on there, and incidentally, a lot of it goes across my real estate and my family's real estate, so I was very cognizant, but I mean, a very well-drawn map, an excellent explanation, and if you want the direct contact and someone to come out with meet with you, as you just said, it was there. I thought that was extremely well done.
All right.
Well, it helps us in the long run, too.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shar. Thank you, Brad.
Mr. Hinkie still here?
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
All right, Park and Rec. John Henke.
Hi there. Just a couple quick announcements here. We've got another AAA class coming up on November 30th from 9 to 1. And we're having our first blood drive at the community center, working with the local Lions Club, and they're going to host that this Wednesday, November 16th from 12 to 6. Food will be provided, and please come out and consider making a donation there. So hopefully we get the whole community involved in the blood drive that the Lions are pushing here this week. Yoga class, Gail has decided to postpone her class until springtime, probably start them up around April. And the community center will be closed on the Thanksgiving holiday. So it's the only announcements I have for tonight.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Chief Hartman, Public Safety.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Good evening, Bob.
Um,
Chief?
This evening, you have in front of you is a policy that I have to put in place for the body-worn cameras. What I did when, after Mr. and Mrs. McCullough graciously gave us the money to purchase the cameras, which are ordered, they were supposed to be here in October, they're not here yet, and we sent them an email, we're waiting to hear back. Anyway, as I researched for these policies, what I found out is, as of August 1st, there were some new laws that went into effect in reference to body-worn cameras. And what we have to do is we have to have an opportunity for the public to make a comment before purchasing or before fully implementing a body-worn program. Another thing we have to do is an opportunity for the public to comment at one of the regular meetings of the city council as they ultimately set the department budget, and public comment in and on the department's proposed body-worn camera policies. So what I did was when I was researching these policies, I checked with other police departments throughout Minnesota, looked at what some of them, Bloomington and some of these other ones, what their policies were. I looked at the Minnesota Chiefs of Police, and I finally came up with the League of Minnesota Cities has by far the best policy. So I tweaked that to make it work for us, but now it's on the council now with a few things that we need to do for public comment. And I guess from here, I mean, Dan and I visited a little bit, and it needs to go to a public meeting.
Do we have to have a hearing on this?
I don't think it's a public hearing, so to speak. I think it's an opportunity for public comment regarding the policy. So what I would suggest is we put it on your next agenda.
Absolutely.
The press is here, and they can notify the public. We can put an extra notice in our, if we're online or whatever our methods we have, just to make sure that the public knows about it, that they have an opportunity to come in and comment regarding the proposed policy.
We want to make sure we get that covered. We don't want to stumble over this.
Right.
Do we call I don't imagine we're going to have a lot of comment, but that, I've missed on those before. Do we do it as a special part of the next meeting, Shar?
I would do.
Dan, what do you
That's what I
guys
would
think?
do. I mean, just have it as an agenda item. You can put it under critical,
on the agenda?
put it under critical issues right at the beginning of the the
Critical
meeting,
issues. All right,
and make sure that the public is aware of that this is coming up.
all right. Is that all right with you, Chief?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, in reading through this, I think
Huh?
most of this is dedicated towards large departments, Minneapolis, and those,
Well, we
where
got
you
a
have
ton-
budget issues and you have other community groups that have, anyway, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, we can double check with the league. If it needs to be called a public hearing, Mr. Mayor and council members, we'll list it as a public hearing.
Well, we just
We'll
schedule it
make
a
sure
little
that-
bit ahead of the
Yep.
meeting then. All right, sounds
Thanks,
good.
Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Person?
No report.
Yeah, you got to have something. How's the deer issue?
I could comment on that. I did speak to a DNR officer locally in Brainerd, and it was a female, is trying to, she wants to have some sort of study on.
I've got a car that has hit 3 deer in the last 6 weeks.
I told her that.
You told her that?
Anyway, she has not gotten back to me, but she's trying to see what they have to do procedurally to,
I'll tell you.
you know.
3 and 6, are you sure this is a deer problem?
I don't know if I can.
I was sort of wondering the same.
All
Mr.
right,
Herdman
you
might want
guys.
to follow you around and see who's being reckless.
Wait a minute. I'm sure the attorney has the floor.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, she said she would get back to me on, there definitely are things that the DNR has done statewide. She
Yep.
wasn't sure what they do procedurally to get it going in Cross Lake.
I tell you, it's just crazy.
Well,
I
you know,
agree.
the-
There's a lot of deer in that point.
Yeah.
Can we address the skunks, too?
And what?
Skunks.
Whatever you think are voluminous in the city, you can talk about it.
I've got a nice shed. They keep moving in there, and I keep chasing them out, and then they keep moving back in again. My first month on council 4 years ago, that was one of my first calls.
Run over
Somebody
with your
called me,
car.
what do I do about my neighbor? He's got skunks under his cabin. Who's the neighbor? He told me. He said, I know him, I'll call him. He came out and
Right.
shot it and was done, so.
In regards to your deer, last Saturday night, I was going home about 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
The deer are walking across the crosswalk right there by, they were in the crosswalk going across the street.
Andy's there?
No, by the golf course, where the golf carts go
I
across.
suppose they're considered pedestrians.
Yeah, they weren't even jaywalking.
I'll tell you. So, Bob, look the other way when I drive home tonight. I'm missing my right eye in my vehicle. Any old business? Huh? Wait a minute, he's hiding behind somebody back there. Bob Perkins is talking to us.
He said you just got recorded too on that comment.
All right. New business? Public forum. Bob, it's your turn again. I appreciate your input. Thank you. Anything else? Meeting is adjourned.